Hi everyone, welcome to our tip of the week. This week we're going to be focusing on a very popular verbal reasoning question type, which is antonyms, or more commonly known as opposites. We know that antonyms can appear across all of the different exam boards. They could appear in a GL assessment exam, under verbal reasoning, or also questions within comprehensions. They could also appear in a CEM test, in a comprehension exercise, or just be a separate section on its own. We also know that Reading boys have incorporated what they call English vocabulary, and part of the English vocabulary could be antonyms. And in actual fact, these questions have been taken directly from the Reading boys familiarisation paper. Now, what we're going to talk about in terms of the tip of the week is ways of approaching antonyms. Sometimes our students find antonyms more challenging than closest in meaning, and certainly within their own schooling they're more likely to focus on closest in meaning than they are antonyms. But we know that opposites are important to practice, and we're going to have a look at a couple of examples now. So we've got a fairly easy example question here. So we have to select the word that means the opposite, and sometimes we would encourage children to underline that to make sure they don't get confused with closest, with the opposite of the word on the left. Mark your answer on the answer sheet by choosing one of the options A to E. So it's important to remember that children will be, of course, transferring their answers across to a separate sheet, and they must make sure that it correlates, of course, with the question. With most of the examples, that's already been marked for you. But it is important to note that there are some example questions which the children will have to mark across onto the multiple choice sheet. They won't get any marks for it, but they need to do that so they make sure that the rest of the questions do correlate with their answers. So, example 1, we've got enormous, and then we've got cheap, tiny, lively, terrible, and happy. It is important that children remember that they're looking for antonyms, and sometimes the examiners can throw closest in meaning in there to catch you out. In this instance, though, there's only obviously going to be words that are either closest or don't apply, so we're going to cross out cheap, because that's not the opposite of enormous. Tiny, and of course tiny means small, so that looks like it's probably going to be the answer. Going to check the rest of them. Lively, no. Terrible, no. And happy, no. We often find with example questions they can often be a lot easier than the actual questions that children are given. And I would certainly say enormous and tiny wouldn't appear within an 11 plus test. You're more likely to have something like massive or minute as the opposite in meaning. So it's just to be aware of sometimes the difficulty of the words that they will set. In question 1 here, again, we'd encourage children to look at that word on the left, decide if they know what it means. Adore. So if you adore something, you really like it. And we're looking then for something which means to maybe hate or dislike. So despise, the first word that we've got. Well, I know despise means to hate. If you despise something, you don't like it. Just going to check the other options. Insist, no. Avoid is not the opposite. Finish, no. And shout, no. So despise is our answer. And that process of elimination does really rule out those ones that we know it can't be. And if children are left, say, with 2 words that they're a little bit unsure about, well, it does bring them down to a 50-50 chance of hopefully getting that question right. Question 2, we've got decline. And I often think about with decline, actually declining a card. So a decline, if something is declined, then it's not accepted. Now, in actual fact, in my definition there, I've actually used the opposite word. And the opposite is accept. And decline and accept are opposite in meaning. Sometimes, if a child does identify very, very quickly and they're absolutely sure, there's no need to go through and cross out the wrong answers, because time is not always on the children's side. Certainly in CEM, if you are given an antonym section, you may have, for example, 20 to 25 questions and maybe only 6 minutes to get them done. So just being aware how quickly children need to make that selection on what they think those antonyms would be. And it's always worth, if you do finish a section quickly, going back and double checking that all those pairs of words are antonyms. At Teach It Right, we have provided you also with a list of antonyms to learn. I hope you're learning those. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed our tip of the week. Bye bye.